Todd C. Slater, and welcome to this edition of SITV. So each week I try to talk about varying subjects such as what's happening in the economy, what's happening with mortgages, RSPs, and even last week we talked a little bit about repairs. But this week I want to be able to talk to a subject that a lot of people are discussing, and that is student rentals. It's a big thing for investors to own student rental properties, but there are two major things that we should probably discuss. First of all is going to be the lease, and then second of all, of course, the repairs of the student rentals. So let's start off by talking about the lease. One of the most important things as a landlord is you want to make sure you get paid. Now, very commonly, most landlords will put the actual parents on the lease with the student. See, at the ages between 16 and 18 or 20, they typically don't have a credit rating yet, or perhaps, they don't have savings, and the parents are actually accommodating some of the costs to going to university. So one of the most important things, when you're doing an application to rent, and when you actually do the agreement of tenancy, you want to make sure that the parents are there as a guarantor. Now, one of the things as a landlord, you'll know that typically you will have somebody there for 10 out of the 12 months yearly. In a lot of cases, there will be students that will want to tie up the property for the next year. So what you do want to do is obviously sign a 12-month lease, but prorate it and have the actual last 2 months payment built into the other 10. So in other words, the rental rate is actually going to be a little bit higher for those 10 months, and that's because it's offsetting the actual rent for the summer months that they're not there. Now, you can do this, and you have to disclose that in the actual rental agreement. So very important. Back to the parents for a second. The reason why you want to have them on the actual lease is because they are going to be responsible for paying the rent if the student doesn't. Now, of course, they will have the credit rating, and it doesn't hurt to be able to do a credit report on them as well, and I advise all landlords to always do a credit report. So again, a couple of tips just when you are looking at leasing to students, okay? Also, keep in mind about damages. You do want them to sign off on a commitment if certain things are damaged that they will be either paying for it or repairing it. It's part of a schedule that you'll add into the actual lease agreement. The objective here is to make sure that they know they are responsible for taking care of the property. Moving forward, as a prudent landlord, do you want to have a fancy property, or do you want something that is easy to repair? Well, my advice obviously is the easy repair aspect of things. I joke with people and I say, make the property bulletproof. The reason why is that typically, as you know, the youth of today, they're going to have parties and, probably not take care of the property the way you would as a tenant. So what you want to do is make sure that you are using paints that are very, very strong. I do advise sometimes to use epoxy paints. And of course, even though we are going to more of a green style of painting, keep in mind oil-based paints will endure more than a latex paint. Latex paints are easy to repaint and cover up, but they're not as durable. So looking at oil or epoxies in some areas are going to be key. Now, other things such as countertops, you don't need a granite countertop, you don't need crown molding, you don't need a lot of fancy things. Make sure that whenever you are doing work to a student property, make sure that it's dry, easily cleaned, and things that you do aren't going out of style. So when somebody is going to rent the property, when the students show up, so do the parents basically. And they want to take a look at the unit as well. So keep in mind you've got two clients, the parents and the student. Make sure that it's nice and clean. Give it a little bit of color. Don't make it too sanitary by going white throughout. I like the idea of mushroom taupe, that kind of earthy tone. It looks nice, and keep the trim white as well. When a parent comes to take a look at the property that they are guaranteeing the rent on, make sure that they're also impressed by it. So before renting any property, make sure it's well cleaned, make sure that there's no odors. And again, one other little thing is that if they decide to bring a pet, you have to put a pet clause in so that they will cover the damages of the pet. Very important because, again, pets can be very hard on a rental property. For tips like these, make sure that you go to www.thesimpleinvestor.com, or of course, you can join us at our next seminar coming up May the 2nd. Now that's a Wednesday, and we're going to be talking about investment properties and making out some great offerings for you as an investor. So that's it for this edition of SITV. Thanks for joining us, and I'll see you next time.